Hello? Okay. That should work. I see things. How about now? Hoping that gets it working, because I actually, so there's a whole bunch of different channels with this streaming piece of software, and they're all by default muted, and now I've unmuted it. Okay, yay sound. Alright, let's back up a bit, I guess. So to summarize what I was talking about for the last who knows how long, I was talking about the old style blocks. One of the issues I ran into was just getting tubes attached to it. In my garage setup, it just took forever to fit the things, and I had to like warm up the tube. If I had 3/8 tube, it would have been a lot better, because I think that's what these pipes are, the aluminum pipes. But that's totally not a problem anymore with the solid blocks. They have the barbs on them, so just so easy to disconnect them and reconnect them up. And then I was gonna go over, kind of show what I previously done with the old blocks. And you can see, I'll try and get a close up of the tubes fitted around, if you can see that right there. The tubes fitted around the pipe, and it's a good solid connection. Like, it's not moving. It's not going to move if I bump it. And on some of them I even fastened them, kind of tightened them down with zip ties, which may not even be necessary. But it's completely not necessary with the barbs. So, but the idea is that with this self-contained setup, like, it's got the power supply on it, it's got the, it's got a reservoir. You go look over here, and right there, we can see it. And it's got the radiator, heat exchanger, air to water heat exchanger. It's got the green fluid, and this green fluid is actually water, but it's got additions to it so it doesn't corrode the metal, and it doesn't grow any algae or anything like that. So it's more expensive than water for sure, but I wanted this thing to run for ages without me having to touch it, and it did. It ran since I built the thing. You can go look back at the video. It's been running since then. I only shut it down maybe a month ago. So let's take that big thing away. And it weighs a lot. So one of the things is it flexes a ton. I don't know if you can see that flex, but it is flexing a lot. And you can see the lights underneath. 2 lights for every block. It's a heavy beast, so you don't have to spend a whole lot of money buying pre-existing solutions if you can make your own and you can make it better. Okay, so okay, now we can put some new lights on. Oh, we want this one. Get this old one out of here. So we got one light. Where did I put the other one? Right here. 2. Apologize for the slight delay. Had to go grab some tools. I literally prepared for this in a really short amount of time, and I just got home before I started this. So not everything I wanted to do will do today, but at least some of the stuff. We're gonna mount. So we're gonna mount these two on here. We probably won't power them up today, but I'll at least show mounted cobs and kind of how that works. And then I'll describe a little bit more what my plans are for the next bunch of lights. So, and by the way, Malcolm, I know you're watching now. I did see your gift. I mentioned that the audio wasn't working, but I mentioned that, I mean, you must save your old RAM just for me. It makes me feel special. Okay, let me grab some bolts, some nuts, some screws, and I've got my nice hand drill here. And we should be able to mount these pretty quickly. Get 4 of those. 4 one light and 4 for the other. And 1 more. And the last thing we need is some thermal grease. We need good contact. We're going to keep these lights cool. I mentioned with these old lights, when the sound wasn't working probably, that I'll remove these. These are both 100 watts, and this solution is crap. Was the sound working when I was... So this is live, this is no joke. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why this version sucked. It's air cooled, and this fan, this one right here, this fan on the other side no longer works reliably. And I walked into the greenhouse. This is my production, one of my production lights, one of the original ones I made. One of the it was hot. It was burning to the touch, and I could smell this cob might be slightly damaged, and actually I can see there's quite a bit of dark diodes. Those are burned out. This 100-watt cob is pretty much ruined because my cooling solution failed. Because I relied on fans, and the fan failed. So that sucks. I could probably still use it. There's probably still some good diodes in there. This one looks good still. So that it sucks, but this is it's going to be a much better solution. Have it completely water cooled, not have to rely on as many moving parts, right? Because This has got 2 cobs, and I had have 2 fans, and I had to underpower this thing. Like, this thing should have been running at 200 watts, and I probably was doing 60% of that. So just over 120 probably, because it just got too hot. Like, these fins and fans are just not adequate to keep it cool, and they're prone to fail. I mean, this is a moving part. This is a moving part just for 2 lights. With water cooling, you get 1 pump. That's your only moving part, is the pump. And it will, they're pretty reliable. You can even hook up 2 pumps in series and get even more reliability. You can have sensors that detect the flow, and they're actually very cheap. And you could shut off the lights if the pump's not working. I have metered outlets in my greenhouse that sense the current. You can also do it by that. If current for whatever reason drops to 0 on the pump, make sure the lights are off, right? You can turn off the lights that way as well, automate that. Alright, let's get the right fitting for the right drill bit for these screws. That won't work. We'll get some grease. Now I took apart a light recently, one of those eBay lights, the spotlights, the cheap ones, the water resistant outdoor spotlights. That thing had so much thermal grease in it. It was just all over the place, and you don't need a lot of thermal grease. You need to be able to cover the base with just like that, and that's it. That's all you need. You don't need gobs and gobs of thermal grease, because guess what? When you sandwich this down, a lot of this is going to come out the sides. If you've got too much, it's going to make a big mess. So I want to make sure I get, if you look on these, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's got a plus on this side and a minus on this side. But you've got to look at the leads inside the light itself, inside the LED, because that's really what's going to tell you. So minus, there's a lead that starts up here, comes all the way down here, and it comes out to this, I guess you can call it a leaflet or branch, and this is where you solder the connection. So this would be the negative side, the negative sign right here, and there's another set of leads that are up here, start down here and come across, and they come out here. So that's the positive side. So that's how you know, at least how I know, what is positive and what is not. So I'll squish that down, and I'll just use my hands and insert a few screws to hold it down in place. Hand tighten screws. And I'll do another one in the corner. I'll periodically, I'll check the chat window to see if there's anything going on. So Malcolm says that he's got plenty of RAM. Oh man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, so I'm the worst shipper ever. Don't ask me to ship you anything, because I just don't do it right. So this one we did some negatives on the bottom here. We'll do the same thing for the next one. So you can actually leave this on, and it's probably a better idea if you leave on the protective film while you're working with them, because when you're working with the grease and you get it on your fingers and you touch inside, you're gonna mess things up. Just smear a nice layer of thermal grease, and this is like a bulk thermal grease I got from AliExpress. I don't know if you can see, but there's like part of the label is written in Chinese or something that I can't read. Not to disparage the language, but I just don't know. Okay, I've got my daughter here. Can you read the chat and see if anybody says anything? Tell me if anybody says anything that I should respond to. I've read all that, by the way.
All this?
I'm going to throw this away directly so I don't set it down and mess anything up.
Joe. Oh, Kevin rocks. It says Kevin rocks.
Okay, so we want to do the negative on the bottom again. So that side. And having them on the having them in the same direction, jumping from here to here. If you're going to do a parallel power source, power these lights in parallel, which I normally do.
What LEDs are you using?
So these ones are blue. They're 650, I believe. No, I think they're. So it says on here in marker 450 nanometer. They're 50 watts each, and I just got them on AliExpress. I have a seller that I normally go to. And I can't remember off the top of my head the seller. For the colored ones, they make really good colored ones. If you want a specific color, like blue or even far red, I usually go to that source. And then for they're orange. They're pink lights or purple lights. They're blue red. So the orange phosphor on it, it's actually a blue LED, but the orange phosphor gives off red. In addition to the blue, so they look pink. They don't have much. They don't have much in the green spectrum.
At watching you use the power driver on the screws makes me cring. Yeah. He said, "What LEDs are you using?"
Yeah.
What are you using?
So I can go real quick and look at the. I can look up the buyer real quick.
Driverless LEDs.
That I get these LEDs from. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. I can definitely over tighten. Malcolm said he's cringing watching me use a power drill. Although this is like the weakest drill ever. You charge this thing with the USB port. It's got a micro
Make
USB.
it roll.
That's how it charges. It's crazy. And I like that. I like being able to charge everything via USB, but It's just kind of, you never would have thought a drill charged with USB. Wow.
Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the way.
At least I would have never thought of that.
Where's the boat?
So I'll put the film back on the blue LEDs, and I will go grab some of the other lights that I've got from the same seller. So these are some other blue ones. These are 460 instead of 450 nanometer. But Chanzon is the company. So if you would search for Chanzon on AliExpress, you can find. And they make all sorts of colors again. Have I considered using driverless LEDs? Yes, I have. And they actually look... The only thing I don't like about them is they appear non-standard kind of shape, and I wish I had a picture to show, but they're usually a little bit bigger, and they're driverless because they've got the rectifier and the other components to take the AC current and make it direct current DC. They've got all those components in the thing itself, in the light itself. And they usually, at least they appear to have that stuff. They appear to have that. I don't want to say cemented in. I'm looking for the right word. They have them kind of glued on. There's like no ability to repair it, but you can hook it up to I think up to 220 volts and it's supposed to just work. I'm not sure how efficient their circuitry is, but it is. I think it's a good idea. I just haven't tried it yet. I like the idea of using 48 volts for a lot of my operations because I feel safer. Like I'm not the most attention to detail oriented guy, and I don't want to electrocute myself. 110 is really easy, or even 220 is even easier to electrocute yourself. 48 is a lot more difficult, so I usually do 48 per 100 because I think it's safer. I don't have to be as careful, and technically I'm not supposed to be, as a homeowner or whatever, unless I'm a licensed electrician, I'm legally not allowed to do a lot with 110, especially if I'm wiring through walls or things like that. And in most jurisdictions, 48 volts is the upper limit. Like you don't have to be a licensed electrician to do that. Not that I'm a big fan of those laws anyway, but that's just one thing to consider when using. And you may not have to like drill through walls or do any sort of extra wiring to use those driverless LEDs, but just something you might want to think about. Alright, I think that's pretty much I had planned. Like we could go in, I could like try and actually power this thing up. But I think I'll save that for another video. Another thing I wanted to show real quick is my old style light has the barrel connector. And these are not rated for a lot of amps. The wires are pretty thin. I mean, they look thick, but the the plastic around them is what's giving it the thickness. They're probably 22 gauge, very thin, and I've actually melted a number of these, pushing as many amps as I am. So I am no longer going to use barrel connectors, even though they're really easy to work with. I'll be using XT60 connectors. So I have a bunch of them here. Whenever I make a new light, I'm going to start using these, and they're keyed, so you can only put them in one way, and they're nice, thick, nice high gauge, high amp. I can't remember what the XT60s are rated at, but it was something like at least 10 amps or 10 to 20 amps for this little connector, and they have an XT90, I believe, which is even, you can, a lot more power capable. Ooh, I like Big Clive. I watch his channel a lot. I will have to check out his he probably has done a teardown on those driverless LEDs. Okay, Malcolm says there's 60 amps, XT60. That makes a lot of sense. 60 amps, that's a lot. And they look strong. So I'm going to be using them almost exclusively whenever I can for any new lights I make. You guys need to go upstairs. You're making it loud, and I'm everybody on YouTube. Malcolm says I should be sure and clean the solder connections. Yeah. I mean, they don't look dirty, but I think he's just. You need to make sure your solder joints are good contact, and then if you use flux, clean it off afterward because it'll corrode the metal. Right? Is that kind of what you meant? Yeah. Yeah, lead to fire. Fire is bad. Fire is really bad. Well, that's kind of all I had. So my plan is, actually that's not all I had, I just remembered. So the plan is, I'll get these, and I'll probably, since we do have a through hole, I'll probably mount, I'll get 2 of these long bars, and I'll probably mount them like this. 1 bar over here, and another bar over here. And I'll hang them very similarly. At least in the greenhouse. This is the plan for the greenhouse. In like other setups, like I may just use these nylon hangers. That's really easy, especially for like if I'm just doing seedlings and stuff.